This is the United Uprising channel. Welcome to today's show. I've got to show you this footage from Elon Musk once again attempting, all these people attempt to go into space. Even though we landed on the moon and never went back, they're probably afraid to CGI something with the moon because they know people will dissect it and show how fake it really is. But all one would have to do is actually look into the original moon landing to see how fake it is. Now, I'm going to cover this story about Elon Musk attempting to send the biggest rocket ever built into space, and you're going to see the video clip of it exploding in space. Now, I've said it before that space is not real, and let me take you to the mindset of everything we're taught in school is a lie. The things that they make up are to discredit God and discredit the Bible. So if anybody out there is wondering what I think about the shape of the earth, it doesn't necessarily matter what I think about the shape of the earth. But unfortunately, we're in a society now where you get deemed into categories. Is he a flat earther? Is he not? Is he a glober? And they get into this stuff day in and day out. I don't partake in those types of things, but I'll tell you this. I take the Bible literally. Every single word. Witches, curses, the things that are in the Bible about sacrifice, including things like this in Genesis. God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven." Okay, this is literally out of the book of Genesis. In the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 6 through 8, it's right in the beginning of the Bible about the creation of the earth. So why do you think they would try to pretend like we can go out into space? Why do you think that they would pretend like we've gone to the moon? Because what it does is it discredits the Bible, and it makes them capable of saying, well, the Bible, it's just kind of a book, but it doesn't talk about life out in space. It doesn't talk about those types of things. That's because there isn't life out in space. We're all stuck here under the firmament, here on this earth. And whatever category you want to put me or anybody else in, I don't really care. I am a follower of Christ, and I am a believer in the word to a T. And I don't believe a single thing we've ever been taught in school was reality. In fact, what they've done is created a fake reality around anybody. So anybody out there that tries to fight against this, the only thing I would say is if you don't want to take the Bible literally or you don't believe in the Bible, don't pick and choose the stuff in school that we learned from reality and fiction, okay? Anything in history and all that type of stuff is make-believe. And even when the events actually occur, the narrative behind it are not real. Hence World War II and what really occurred. So Elon Musk, of course, has deceived so many out there, so many Christians, so many conservatives, of course, as they're using him and working him to eventually have the brain chip implemented in them. But of course, he's trying to get still out into space. It's amazing we went to space in the 70s, the 60s. What was the exact date of us going to space? 1960s, I think 1969. They claim we went to space in 1960 or 1961, but we went to space, the moon, in 1969. Of course, we don't know the story of the moon landing and how fake it is and all the predictive programming and all the lyrics and songs. Of course, that motto that we always hear the wicked people like Hillary Clinton talk about, breaking through that glass ceiling. That's what they're referencing, okay? And there's a reason they haven't gone back to the moon. Okay, since 1969 with the way technology has evolved, that they haven't been able to, in fact, because they can't get through it. And they can't fake it anymore like they used to, even though you might say, well, it was so bad back then. Well, the way technology is now, people won't buy into them faking another moon landing. In fact, if you go look at the footage of the original one, it's hilarious. On top of the fact that Neil Armstrong and these guys who were on the Apollo, I think it was the Apollo 11, they all are Freemasons, and there's photos of them with their Freemasonic rings, and there's even interviews with them. If you watch channels that cover that kind of stuff, always talking about, how fake it was and how they never really went. It's very easy, and most of you already know, and you already debate with each other about the truth behind these things, and that's for you to debate here or there. But take a look. This is so funny to me because they continue to try and defy God and break through this thing. With the more technology, the more money they put into this stuff, the more technology they put into this stuff, they still continue to try to bust through this, and they can't. And then they just say, oh, it's another failed attempt. The thing combusted in space. Look at the video footage of this thing trying to get through the firmament.
3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Vehicle pitching downrange.
We are T plus 40 seconds into the flight. Starship, 33 Raptor engines powering the first stage.
Power and telemetry nominal.
We've heard power and telemetry nominal call out. We're heading downrange over the Gulf of Mexico.
Boom. I mean, the thing explodes in space and nobody gets suspicious about this. How about the other times where they fly these rockets up into space and they just veer to the left, veer to the right? Now there's theories about the Bermuda Triangle being where those things end up landing. I know other YouTubers used to talk about that. I don't think they're here anymore. I don't even know because I don't even follow any other YouTubers anymore. Not because I don't want to, because I've been through so many channels and had so many terminated. I lost track of all the channels I used to follow. So I don't even remember anymore because I don't even remember the name of my channel at this point. What is this channel? End of the beginning? No. I forgot. No, what is it really? Oh, it's United Uprising. Okay. I mean, that's how ridiculous all this stuff is. So anyway, what I also thought was funny was that people were taking pictures of the sky the next morning after all this, this charade went on, that people just continued to fall for. I love how people are awake and, and they still think, well, some of the stuff that they teach us is real. You might say, well, why would they teach us about space? Because what does it make God look like? It makes God look small, right? Think about the psychology they use with space. Oh, there's infinite space out there. There's all different wonders in the world, things we don't know about out in the world. What do you think they're doing that for? They're trying to make the Bible and discredit the Bible and make God look small in the grand scheme of things. This is why they always talk about a universe out there. That is the purpose of it. That is why they do it. And they want, of course, on top of that, they have many things that they plan on implementing that'll trick and deceive people with Project Bluebeam, etc., and using space for all of this stuff. Okay, they film this stuff with Mars. I did videos on this in the past, even though I don't really cover the topic of space very often. Okay, they film stuff with Mars out in the middle of, I believe it's like northern Canada, where it's all red rock up there. They literally film the stuff up there. People have footage of them filming the actual stuff that they end up putting on the news. Okay, it's all fictitious. None of it is real. It's the illusion that they have to create in your mind. Just like the stuff we all talk about, I cover every day on this channel. The illusion that they create in their mind, the perception that they create. This stuff is all make-believe. So somebody put up a picture of the sky after the fact. They filmed a video clip of the sky, and it looks like a giant middle finger in the sky. And they were saying, this is God giving them the middle finger. Now, I obviously don't know if God's giving the middle finger or not, obviously, and I don't think God would give them it. But hey, I thought it was kind of funny. Pretty much people saying that them continuing to attempt to defy God, thinking that their technology will, be able to, they might be able to use technology to coerce people and manipulate people, But for them to think that their technology can break through something that God created, it can't. And again, that's why you always hear them talking about the glass ceiling. So what's funnier about this, you see that thing explode in space, is that, of course, they can't like hide this stuff. They used to be able to just run these experiments. And for people that don't know about NASA, NASA is a giant laundering organization. I've covered that since I started my channel. I might not have gone into stuff about space or the shape of the earth and the wall, all these other things that are biblical, but I've always gone into NASA because NASA is a laundering organization. They launder through NASA, okay? Launder money through NASA. Doesn't mean that they don't run these experiments to try to break through the firmament, because they do. We see them running these things, but it's all show. It's a show. They launder money through this for what? Take a guess. Involves youngsters, okay? It also involves drugs and everything else. They use all these things as fronts, and psychologically, they also use these fronts to make people think, wow, these scientists, oh, they're so smart. Oh, what are you, a rocket scientist? What do you work at NASA? These are all things they've created so that you don't question them attempting to get into space because you don't know anything about physics and you don't know anything about space. But as a Christian, we all know about the Bible, and we know that these people, no matter what they create and what they do, will never be greater than God, and they will never, ever be able to manipulate his creation. Now, they can manipulate the minds of his creation, unfortunately, which is pathetic. It's a pathetic attempt to get people to inadvertently worship the devil and defy God. But God warns us of all these things in the Bible, and that's what I try to do on my channel, is warn people about it. So, as they attempted to do this, of course they had a narrative in place, about why this thing went wrong, why it didn't work out when they tried to send this rocket into space, and it just exploded in midair, right? Because they want you to think, well, oh, they're trying this. But nobody sits there and goes, hey, I thought we did this in 1969. Why are we still struggling to get back to? Why haven't we gone back? That should be the most basic question that people ask, right? The most basic question. Why don't we try to go back? But they don't ask that question. They don't sit there and actually look at these things and ask questions about it. They just believe what they hear. So the test flight for SpaceX's massive Starship rocket reaches space, but explodes again. So they tell you it reaches space. Whatever you want to define space as high up as you could go before the thing explodes or hits the firmament. Okay, and then it explodes. So the second launch of SpaceX uncrewed Starship rocket, the largest and most powerful craft on Earth, went farther than the first attempt in April, but exploded after about 12 minutes into flight. And again, they used to be able to hide this stuff, but now with technology, they can't necessarily hide it. They make a big deal about a NASA launch. And what would happen is the camera would only go up so high, and then these things would veer off into the ocean and crash in the ocean. Of course, you would never be able to see it in the ocean because they have people waiting there to pick up all the evidence of it. But again, like I said, a lot of people believe it goes into the Bermuda Triangle, which makes perfect sense, right? Because you're forbidden from traveling over there. So why else would you be forbidden? They create this illusion around the Bermuda Triangle so that you don't go near the Bermuda Triangle, right? See how all this stuff works? So what's even funnier about this, I get a kick out of it because, you think about this stuff with going to the moon, and then they still continually struggle. And then remember the stuff I covered with Jeff Bezos and the giant rocket ship that looked like a Wang, that they were trying to set up a predictive programming at Austin Powers. And they show them going up, and they show the camera footage from them inside the ship, and then they just evacuate it, right? Because they never get past a certain spot, because they can't get past a certain spot. That's why they haven't gone back to the moon, because they never went there in the first place. Just in 1969, it was a lot harder to debunk all of the stuff with the moon landing. There was no internet. Okay, there was no tape recorder, so you just got fed this really fast in the news, and everybody oohed and awed, and that was that. Nobody was sitting there dissecting it. The only people who knew that it was fake were people on the inside, in the intel agencies, etc., in the government, who knew that it was faked. Okay? And then they were able to create this mindset throughout decades of us going to the moon without anybody ever being able to question it or look into it. Thus, those generation of parents passed that propaganda onto the next generation. And that includes my generation, your generation, everybody listening to it. Because then we get taught what? Oh, solar system and all these planets and stuff. Now, again, if you look into the planets, this has a lot to do with occult worship. Venus, okay? Saturn, right? Saturnalia. So the planets all have specific names. This is all stuff that has been strategically done by these people. But if anyone's believing it at this point, just sit there and ask yourself why they haven't gone back. That's all. You could do all these things with your phone. They can track you, facial recognition, but they can't go back to a place they went in 1969. And why don't they go back? They make up excuse after excuse after excuse. They don't want to pretend it and fake it again because people will rip it into shreds. Just like we all What happened was, we've all looked at these events that happened at schools over the years and ripped it and dissected it to shreds because they were so fake and the footage series was so fake, right? That's why they had to throw us all off the internet because people were waking up to how fake all their psyops were. Well, just imagine with space, okay? They know, and then how are they going to police that? Because people are going to go, well, what's the big deal? People are looking at it, questioning it, right? They don't want to go through that again. So they tell us that it reached space, but then it exploded again. So the Starship, which lifted off at about 8:04 a.m. from SpaceX's private starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, near Brownsville on the Gulf of Mexico. And again, I think that they're doing these from Texas too. I think the one that Bezos was also in Texas is because people got suspicious of the Bermuda Triangle and then seeing it going over the Atlantic. They probably have, have this go into the Gulf of Mexico, et cetera. So what's even funnier about it, again, is that they claim that this thing blew up in space for no reason whatsoever, right? Went up in space and exploded. Well, why would it explode? Oh, exploded because you don't understand physics, Mr. United Uprising. You don't understand science. Oh, yeah, I understand bullshit really well, okay? Because I could see through it. I've always had the ability to see through BS. I have a really high BS meter, okay? Everything they spew is BS. I don't just deem it BS because they spew it. I don't auto-flag it. Their lies and deceitfulness are so easy to see that anybody out there who starts looking at this stuff and questioning it should think and feel the same way. So if you're a teenager out there, you ever think why they never go back? Isn't that enough of a question for you? Why are these things exploding in the air every time? Oh, I don't know, because what? Oh, they tell you because of combustion with the air and the gravity and blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but we can watch football while taking a dump on our phones in our home. You can be monitored and tracked by your phone, pinging off towers, etc. All this stuff that we have in place. This is 1969, folks. We're in 2023. Okay, if they were able to do it, they would do it. And they would convince you that all this stuff was real over and over and over again. But they can only do so much, right, with faking it as far as waking people up to the other direction. They don't want people to wake up the other way and start saying, this crap looks CGI. This crap looks like that. So they got to keep you herded in. But they'd be able to do it, I think, 60 years later, even better than, they were, if it was real in 1969, they'd be able to do it even better then. But obviously that wasn't real. It was extremely fake. It was one of the faker things they've ever produced and put on TV. And then, of course, years later, when the internet was around, people were able to take some of the footage and dissect it, but not even so much so because it's not that much footage that they ever released. So they've used, obviously, predictive programming with, like I said earlier, breaking through the glass ceiling. And of course, we've heard stuff about space is faked and Hollywood basements and all this stuff. It's so obvious. It's ridiculous. But it's what's even scarier is them using this, right? Doing these things and then being able to get away with just saying, oh, it explodes in air. Well, what's the problem? What's the problem why they can't get through there? Oh, but space is real. So they can do these things to convince you that space is real. So getting above the clouds, I'm assuming, is what they're trying to say. Oh, they got so high up. But it's too high, so it explodes. Oh, right. And what has NASA been doing the last 60 years other than traffic you-know-whats? What have they been doing? They're working on getting to Mars. Oh, is that why? Is it easier to fake Mars because there's so much red rock that they can use to film stuff, and they don't have to green screen that versus, the moon, where they would obviously be green screened? I mean, come me a break. And of course, Elon Musk is one of the people on Bezos. So they have libs and conservatives behind this. Because remember, when there's things that they want you to fully believe, both sides will be on board. Both sides were on board with the magic potion. Both sides are on board with space being real. And it's a crazy, out of control conspiracy to think that it's not. When anybody should sit there and be like, well, why would we believe it's real? Right? Have you ever been on an airplane and seen the Earth go? Anyone that claims that they've seen, I've been on planes many times. Okay, I've never seen, I've seen dead flat forever. Okay, so for anybody out there, it's like, oh yeah, you're seeing it curving and all this stuff. Hey, no, you don't. Okay, now you want to believe the narrative they give you? Go ahead, believe it. Doesn't change my day-to-day life. Okay, but use your own eyes for everything. Do you see the stuff they tell you is going on? No, you don't. Do you ask questions as to why they can't go back? No, people don't. And then ask the question, if they can go back, why haven't they gone back? And then they'll give you an answer, and then just say, well, that answer's not good enough, because it's not good enough. It's bullcrap. Everything they spew out of their mouths is bullcrap. And I take the Bible literally, 100% literally, okay? And you're talking literally about Genesis, the book of Genesis, about the creation of the earth, okay? There is a reason, again, it defies God. It makes God look minimal and small, that there's a big universe out there beyond the Bible, right? Christians fall for this, of course, because they don't interpret the Bible or whatever. They just brush over certain parts. Like, well, God might have said that, but maybe God was wrong there. God's not wrong about anything, Anything. Okay? You're wrong. You're wrong for not taking the Bible literally then. Get past your programming. Everything they've taught us is a lie. It's a waste of time. The school system is nothing more than a waste. People are like, well, it's so bad now, but it wasn't like that when I was a kid. Yeah, it was. In the 70s and when they were teaching this stuff, fake. It's to create a fake perception of your mind of reality. It's not a real reality they're telling us about. Space and all this. It's all make-believe. So the thing combusts in midair. And of course, the media's like, oh man, it combusted in midair. Why did it combust in midair? Combusted in midair because it ain't breaking through the glass ceiling, folks. Sorry if you don't like it, but that's the way that it is. I mean, I'm all for people having their own opinions. You don't have to agree with me on any of the stuff I cover. I don't care if you want to unsubscribe. Go ahead. Doesn't matter to me. I don't even have anybody listening anymore at this point. But I take the Bible literally word for word, and I take my eyes literally, okay? Everything I see. If I can't see it with my own eyes, I don't believe it, period. And I don't believe anything they air on that box in our homes or told us in the school system. I don't believe any of it, okay? You want to sit here and be like, well, 2 + 2 = 4. Oh, okay, fine. You want to believe stuff like that? You want to believe math and you want to believe gym class? Good, okay? History? No, thank you. How about the stories we're taught in literature class? You think there's a reason that 1984 was mandated reading in schools back then? What do you think it was mandated reading for? It was programming you, putting it in place. What did they go, don't ever let this out if they didn't want it out? Of course they put it in there for a reason, right? Sigil magic, predictive programming. Everything's done strategically by these people, but it's not so strategic, okay, when you have eyes to see and ears to hear. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.